So thank you very much. This is a great honor to be here. It's certainly, I think, a discussion that is very welcome to hear and be a part of. It's an honor. I am Jeffrey Howe. I am the general manager of Howe Technologies and a senior executive vice president for Textron Systems. My brother, he's stuck in the air right now on some flights, so he couldn't make it. But that's a great part about being a twin and having a twin brother. We're able to divide and conquer on some of these important issues and things here. We were incorporated officially in 2006, ran our company for, I think, 10, 13 years before we got acquired by Textron Systems and Textron itself. And so we're excited to be a part of this. And that's a quick introduction. And we're certainly, it's going to be a great talk here in the next few minutes.
Steve, would you take a minute and tell us, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Kratos Autonomous Systems?
Yes, sir. Happy to do so. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Steve Finley. I'm the division president of the Unmanned Systems division of Kratos. And Kratos is an interesting company. We're a mid-size, mid-tier company, but the thing that makes us a little bit different is we tend to have prime contracts. We tend to produce and develop and deliver systems rather than subsystems. Many of the mid-tier companies deliver subsystems that support the tier 1 primes. We actually operate at the system level, which has made it very interesting for us with respect to competing on government contracts and competing with the tier 1 primes. And the innovation and partnerships is such a fantastic topic for us, because I really think those two are the golden nuggets that have enabled us to be successful. We're excited to talk to you today. We've got 6 divisions, and I represent the Unmanned Systems division, which is by far the most exciting.
I have no doubt about that. Thank you so much. Dr. Larry Schutte, could you share a little bit about your background and tell us about your current role?
Sure, you bet. So I spent 40 years in the federal lab system, ended up at the Office of Naval Research, where I was director of innovation, running the railgun, the lasers, and the unmanned systems programs. And then I was a director of research where I engaged with all the universities. So if you got your PhD and it was sponsored by ONR, that was my group. And now I'm at Lockheed Martin. We make little airplanes, along with a bunch of other stuff in 4 big divisions across the globe, really. And I do the global science and technology portfolio, where I engage with universities and small business across the country and really across the globe. And so we're going to talk about how we engage with small companies, how you can get engaged with Lockheed Martin. We have something like 10,000 small and medium companies as part of our global supply chain. But more importantly, we sponsor over 500 phase 1 SBIRs out of DoD and NASA on a yearly basis. And very proud of that. And I know in the audience, there's some folks from TRI and some other companies that we work with, and really excited about their work. And I think from the university perspective, in addition to the knowledge that we gain working with them and the students that we hire, they're always thinking on our behalf and always thinking on the customer's behalf, and then we can help channel that effort. We have a Lockheed Martin Ventures, a $200 million evergreen fund. We fund small companies, many of which come out of universities, as well as out of the SBIR program. So hopefully we can talk a little about that. Now I'll let you get back to your next speaker, Victor.
Larry, thank you so much. Dr. Lisa Kearney, Raytheon, would you please introduce yourself and share some insights into your division, Raytheon?
Certainly. Good afternoon, Victor. Thank you so much for the opportunity to engage with the folks. I'm Lisa Kearney, and I'm with Raytheon Technologies Corporation. I work out of El Segundo, California, and I'm part of the Raytheon Intelligence and Space Division. Raytheon has 4 major divisions now. We recently merged with United Technologies Corporation. So it's now Pratt Whitney, Collins Aerospace, Raytheon Missiles and Defense, and Raytheon Intelligence and Space. I'm an engineering fellow here at Raytheon, and part of my role is small business innovation. And one of the things that I'm engaged with, along with some of my brethren across our Raytheon enterprise, is really reviewing the small business solicitations as posted and engaging with the program managers for the Air Force and Navy MDA, the small business divisions of those agencies, and reaching out to small businesses within our areas that might be applicable to our technology roadmaps. And one of the ways we do that is through letters of support and introduction. And so that's part of my role here at Raytheon as far as it pertains to small business and innovation.
Lisa, thank you so much. Just a quick thought. I bet you're using your Raytheon laptop and your camera is disabled.
We have no cameras on our laptops.
Well, there's a real nod to security. Okay. Thank you very much. You know, I'd like you to continue for just a minute because one of the key points that prime contractors bring to this discussion are the way the way you can enable these small businesses to help and contribute. Could you talk a little bit about how Raytheon and the role that you play enables those small businesses?
Well, we're really key on the technology transfer aspect of it and developing that relationship with a small business that we believe might have a capability that we could integrate into a forward program of record is kind of our objective in working with small businesses. And we look to those small businesses for these technology development efforts because quite frankly, I mean, we're a pretty large company, but we don't have the resources to really go after those in the garage type innovations. And so it's important that we partner with the small businesses within our community and, you know, obviously across the U.S. and we can leverage that and they keep the IP and we're able to license that particular technology or development, you know, further along, maybe from a TRL 4 through TRL 6 and start to implement that into potentially our IRAD projects or CRAD and hopefully into a program of record. So it's a very important aspect for Raytheon to engage with the small business community.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Larry, you have a global portfolio at Lockheed Martin. And I'm wondering if you could share with us how that works and how you bring that technology, especially those small companies, into the process for Lockheed Martin.
Oh, so you know, we're obviously all over the globe with our customers all over the globe. And you know, the companies that are there, you know, have a better feel on the ground many times than we would have. And so having you know, the companies out there, the universities out there, you have a much larger signaling system. And so we use them as our on the ground ambassadors, if you will. And you know, in many countries, in the US included, the academic hierarchy is well connected into the government. You know, you see that in the US, that holds true around the globe. Engaging with the university faculty one day could easily become the defense minister the next. And so that's very helpful. But I think from a US perspective and for this audience, you know, I think the big piece is that the acquisition system, there is no one customer and the customer is not the end user of the product. And so it's very hard to cover the entire signaling system by yourself. And so having companies, small companies out there and the government with the desire through the Small Business Administration to sponsor work, the desire out of the basic research offices and the NSF to sponsor work at universities, we've outsourced as a nation the solution set for our problems to everybody. You know, we've embraced the power of and so we work with those companies and those faculty because they're thinking on behalf of the customer and the end user, and then we can naturally work with them. And so we see that, you know, we share, the government shares, boy, we really wish we had something like this. And the next thing you know, you have every garage shop in the country thinking about that problem. Or you open the paper up and you see, you know, the last decade, the IED fight. And I was at JIDO, actually, courtesy of Mr. England, The secretary created the task force, and he created a science task force. And we were searching for solutions for these science problems, and universities are pitching in and small companies. And we got actually a metal detector that somebody had brought home with them in World War II. And he said, boy, I'm reading in the paper about all these problems you're having with IEDs and mines. I kept this, and I feel like maybe you should have it so that you can use it now. And, the whole country wants to get involved. This system allows us to capture that enthusiasm and that creativity.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
One of the things I noticed is that you were on a panel, I think it was last week, with the UIDP,
Yes,
University Industry Partnership Programs.
Yep.
And so I know you're very active in that regard. Could you say just a word about that?
Well, the universities have perhaps the strongest signaling system on the Hill across the country. Companies think they have good signaling systems, and the universities have a far superior signaling system. And UIDP provides a very good perspective of what's going on across the country in the research community. And so we engage with UIDP there. I engage with them very heavily in my Office of Naval Research role. And, this is a place where if we're interested in metamaterials, we're interested in advanced manufacturing, next generation microelectronics, UIDP is the signaling system onto the Hill to increase the budgets in those areas at the universities. And so it's a long play, but it's an important one.
Especially now. Thank you very much, Larry. Geoff, I have to tell you that I was struggling with my technical issues while you were talking. So I missed some of your introduction. But one of the things we know is that you're a very innovative autonomous land vehicle technology and systems company. And you decided that it was in your best interest to partner with Textron Systems. Will you take a minute and tell us that story?
Oh, that would be terrific. I first want to start by saying how refreshing it is to have this discussion, because a lot of people, a lot of businesses, CEOs, large and small, often see these mergers fail. I think we all have these stories of why do they fail and why, and how can we achieve perfection in this. And part of our history is some of our background. So I have a twin brother. In my opinion, as a business owner and an entrepreneur, always helps, generally speaking. You divide and conquer. You have to keep those bifurcated responsibilities and understand, but that always helps. So having a twin brother to rely upon helps out tremendously. And it really took place. We were building the world's fastest ground vehicle, tracked vehicle in the world back in 2001. Then September happened, September 9/11. And that changed our perspective entirely. We were just a little too old at the time to enlist, but we knew we had to do something, and we wanted to do something. Kind of carry forward into the evolution. We entered the DARPA Grand Challenge 2005, competed in that, and had relatively good success against, and this was all volunteer, right? So our team was completely volunteers out of universities, UMaine, UNH, and others. We ranked 39th out of 150 teams. We did well. Went to the Auto DC show in 2006, I think, and really stemmed from there. That's when the Army said, we need that technology. So we built a track vehicle that was autonomous at the time. So it had GPS waypoint to waypoint. It had obstacle avoidance and those things. Now, back in 2005, this is relatively unheard of on the ground, for sure. I mean, we all talk about it now. We have the Tesla vehicles, but right now, back in the day, it was very, very brand new. And so that basically attracted the military. We got involved with the military in 2007, 8, 9. Sequestration happened. Sequestration happened in 2013, and we were heavily dependent on military. We were basically 80, 90% military, 10, 20% civilian, industrial. And we said, I remember looking at my brother, I said, Mike, we've got to make a pivot. Sequestration. Now, we are one of the very few that I know, and we know a lot of other smaller R&D type incubating type businesses like us. They had all failed. Okay, they had all They couldn't make it through sequestration. Mike and I we said, look, so we pivoted and we said, we need to go commercial. What do we have in our inventory? What have we innovated? Whether it's the RIP chair we made for veterans that are paralyzed. We have a RIP chair that helps disabled people get outdoors. And part of in our heart was about giving back. If we're not giving back and doing something for the betterment of humans, then we're doing the wrong thing. And so that firefighters, we opened up the firefighting line, took our IED defeat robots back in the day, which was 2010, 12, 13, and transform them into the firefighting systems. And so we had that in that growth. We still had the military stuff, and was military starting to grow back again. And we had a couple of offers from other larger defense contractors come in. And for some reason, we just couldn't find the right mix. The synergy wasn't there, and there was some clunkiness, I guess. So for months, and there was a couple. Then we got a call from Lisa Atherton, and you will be hearing from her later on. She's got to be a visionary with Mike and I, as well as one of the best people that Mike and I could ever work for. She calls up and said, guys, this is what I want to do. She explained her vision, her dream, and what that was. I think both sides have to have this. And this is so important when a larger company comes in and takes a smaller company and tries to grow it. There has to be emotional buy-in with that CEO, specifically, probably the CFO, probably HR, and the smaller company, my brother and myself. There has to be that emotional buy-in on all sides. Because when that doesn't happen, you can fail very, very quickly. When Lisa came up, we had this because we showed her the products, we showed her what we had. Now remember, Textron at the time, they have the UAV, a great market in the UAV, great market in the sea, unmanned sea. And she said, we want to close this loop, and we want to be a great player in the ground division. And everything that you've shown me, we can do this. And that really started off a kickoff discussion for months. And how do we do it? And how do we not fail it, right? So we have to have this discussion beforehand. It can't be post, it has to be pre. And what has failed in the past for these people, for that people? How, what is the psychology that comes in when you have entrepreneurs? I mean, Mike and I are A personalities. Typically these entrepreneurs, so you have to get into some psychology of it. And how do you handle somebody like Mike and I? How now, here's the other point part. All of my players here, my employees here, are all considered SF and special forces, meaning that they have to adapt and overcome. So when HR or larger organization comes in, we're able to adapt and overcome. So not only does Textron have to do what they have to do and keep us kind of isolated and not come in and smother us, but we also have to adapt to them. So there's a lot of discussion, and I'll kind of leave it at that. I'm so excited about this because not many times people understand how this happens. And like I said, we see failures happen all the time. I don't think anybody ever does an analysis on why. And how do we not make that happen again? How do we achieve? And right now, we are 2 years into the acquisition. Mike and I couldn't be any happier. We have the RCV program that we are completing and doing a lot of other great things on the unmanned ground world.
Wonderful, Geoff. Thank you so much. That was a terrific recap of the story and the progress and the really important issues associated with thinking about how you partner. Steve, Kratos has taken a different course. I wonder if you could share with us the Kratos unmanned system story.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Victor. I would love to. Let me share my screen here. I've got a couple of slides to go through. I can't help it when it's unmanned aircraft. I feel like it's very exciting to show some of the pictures that go with it. So
yes.
Stand by. And let's see. Are we shared? Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Certainly can.
Yep.
Okay. Super. So very exciting. I can tell you, as we mentioned before, we are certainly a mid-tier defense contractor, and it's pretty funny. When Carl Kaufman mentioned a few minutes ago that his CEO continuously moves the goalpost, and it's a continuous challenge, but a fantastic challenge. Boy, I tell you, our two CEOs must talk to each other because every time I'm doing my touchdown dance and I turn around and the goalpost moved and it wasn't a touchdown yet. It's a new thing, but very exciting at Kratos. I'm thrilled to be a part of it. Definitely an innovative company, and although it's a mid-sized company, we're about 3,000 people total and about 800 in the unmanned systems division. If you look at where the unmanned systems group started and where they've come to, go all the way back to the late 80s and throughout the 90s, and really we were a components manufacturing business, and not even aerospace components necessarily. So we developed the complete composite airframe. We integrated the subsystems. We went out and demonstrated the aircraft and qualified the aircraft, and it was a resounding success. We were very, very excited about it. Those systems, as you see here, here's the 177, just a fabulous aircraft. That airplane will fly, and it's intended to replicate a cruise missile threat. That's its highest challenging mission. So 0.95 Mach on the deck, 6 feet off the surface at 0.95 Mach. Just unbelievably incredible system. And here you see it about to launch from a ship. As a representation, it's obviously an Army aircraft, typically operates from land. There it is with its pneumatic launcher. And to illustrate the rugged composite construction that we get as a byproduct of the carbon composite, all enabled as a result of vision, innovation, calculated risk-taking, and most importantly, both government and industry partnerships along the way.
Outstanding. Thank you very much for that overview. And so
Yes,
now that I have your email address, I'm going to put in a request to visit both you and Geoff and see these activities for myself. One of the things
Please do. You have an
next
open invitation.
Thank you very much. What I'd like to suggest now is Larry and Lisa, if you could sort of tag team a little bit and talk about the elements that are really necessary for, you've heard about Kratos, you've heard about how you have exceptional experience with small business and the integration and partnership with them. What's really essential to you when you start talking about a partnership with a small business? Larry, you want to start?
Well, it always starts with a need, right? And a shared vision of what that need's going to fill. And I think that these kinds of events, and it's going to be interesting to see going forward. I went to the Agility Prime virtual conference. I suspect many of us did. And it was really the first large-scale virtual forum. And I do wonder, will the virtual forums provide us the hall cons and the opportunities to intersect and talk briefly, to spend 10 seconds with somebody, to get a business card to follow up around an idea. Where do we go for an elevator pitch in this virtual COVID world? Because that's really where a lot of these intersections have occurred. And I know that Kratos has got relationships with many of us, and well done. And how I have to confess, I'd have to go think about where we've intersected. And frankly, I'm only in the company for 3 years, but I would just say that those relationships that I've observed that the company has are ones that I knew about when I was in government. And that's because we were going to the same conferences, we would see these opportunities, and that shared vision and that shared response and trust is the first step. You cannot surge trust. You cannot reach out to a new partner to go do something that's important and pressing in a rapid fashion. You really have to have had a relationship. And I think Vic, you asked what's the first step? That's the first step. Lisa?
Wonderful. Thank you.
So
Thank you very much, Larry. Lisa.
Absolutely. I resonate with what Larry has conveyed. At Raytheon, we're looking to fill capability gaps that potentially we don't have the bandwidth to do on our own. We reach out to our small business community, which is an extremely important part of our portfolio at Raytheon. Indeed, we try to develop those relationships. And once we're able to do that, then it's not only that particular capability we're looking for at that particular moment, but what else is going on at that small business? What else can they do? We also look to combine capabilities between small businesses, and how can we leverage those ideas and turn it into something perhaps a little more enhanced that we could implement into our systems for future use. So we, without a doubt, heavily leverage the small business community. And as Larry mentioned, we seek to develop those relationships. It is all about trust and being able to pick up the phone and call up small business A or B and ask them if they can help us out. And we have really wonderful communication across the Raytheon enterprise. So it's not just me and my the business unit I'm in. It's on the East Coast, Raytheon Heritage Integrated Defense Systems, and then missile systems down in Tucson. And then with our new brethren at Pratt Whitney and Collins, where we're kind of on the same wavelength, no pun there, but trying to leverage the small business communities together.
And Vic, if
Wonderful.
I could, I'd just say that, you know, and I'm sure Lisa will be able to say it, but our small business, our SBIR team is truly exceptional.
Yeah.
Craig Owens leads a team from across the company. And, you know, when I was a government employee, it was always hit or miss. When if I sent an email to somebody in the government, would they respond? And what you realize is it's very much a personal decision if I'm going to bother to respond, to somebody. And the company, these people are truly dedicated to the mission of the company and of the country, and they're highly responsive. And so I get great feedback on that team. They were recognized in 2018 by the Senate's Small Business Subcommittee. Craig Owens received the SBIR Lead of the Year. It's the first time they've given it to an industry partner. Normally it goes to a government employee, and I suspect that the prime, this is a place where we put exceptional people to create those linkages internally in the company, but also across that SBIR community. So somebody sends me an email, I usually send them to Craig, and I usually get an extensive feedback, on the performance of that team.
Larry, thank you so much. And Lisa, thank you so much. Geoff,
Absolutely.
We have a minute, a closing comment. You're on, there you go.
There we go. I took out myself off mute there. Closing comment, just I touch upon there needs to come a need. That's absolutely true. Without a need, you have nothing, but there also has to be passion on both sides and emotional buy-in and to make it work and be successful.
Absolutely. I want to thank the panel very much. Geoff, of course, thank you so much. Say hi to Mike when you see him. Steve, thank you so much for the information. Larry and Lisa, wonderful contribution. And we're very, very happy about the information that our attendees have been able to have by tuning into our program. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you, Victor.
Thanks,
Appreciate
everybody.
it. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Victor. Have a good one.